Okay, welcome everyone. Good evening. Welcome for another edition of MeZooMin. But as you might notice, this isn't so much a MeZooMin as much as just me. Now, Rabbi Wahlberg actually got a strange call this afternoon. He's part of a group called the North American Board of Rabbis. He tells me that it's not as important as it sounds, but it does sound important. And he had once been involved in this delegation that met with that came from Germany, and they're having some type of Zoom conference this evening, and their speaker last minute canceled. So Rabbi Wahlberg is there. If you want to see Rabbi Wahlberg, Google delegation from Germany, North American Board of Rabbis, but I think it's a private event, so you're not going to be able to get in there anyways. So he is not with us tonight, which is perfect, I thought, because I figured it would give me a perfect opportunity to talk with Rabbi Yogev, just amongst ourselves. Of course, some of you may be listening, about what we really think about Rabbi Wahlberg. That's what I thought. But maybe judging by the faces that I just saw everyone make, that's not the best idea. I do remember that this is being recorded.
Sounds like a fun idea. I'm just kidding.
I think that could be fun. Rabbi Yogev, I know. I feel like I've been here for 10 years and I feel like I could do this, but I don't know. Maybe...
I have a lot of material from like 2 or 3 years. I'm just joking. Not really, but yeah.
But we're still in MeZooMin this evening because we have a special guest. We're being joined by Dr. Elana Stein, Hain, and I'm going to share a little bit more about her before we welcome her. I'm just telling you that if you, I will share this, but if you haven't ever heard her speak, she's fantastic. And if you know anyone out there who should be on here, text them or email them right now and tell them that they're going to miss out. I'll tell you something else we found out about them in just a moment. So we're going to get started here. Rabbi Yogev, how are you doing? What are you up to? How do you feel now stepping into the role of me as I step into the role of Rabbi Wahlberg on MeZooMin?
Good. I have my whole list of corny jokes to present to people and my lines, but hopefully I'll do well.
Yogev, it was a good run for you.
We'll miss you, Yogev. We'll miss you. All right, we probably should stop. Anyway, I'm doing well. I wanted to share my new toy this is actually real background, so you can see the colors are changing. Anyway, I did that for MeZooMin.
Is that the reason that you did not have time to prepare that shear that I asked you to prepare?
No, I prepared it as I was doing it. No, but actually, this is actually why I was.
Rabbi Yogev, we're getting a lot of chats from people telling us they want us to tell them what we really think about Rabbi Wahlberg, but I'm not going to succumb to this peer pressure.
Well, I will say one thing. I have so I sat many Shabbos next to Rabbi Wahlberg in the beginning. It was like a lot to take in, but I just sat there and I studied Rabbi Wahlberg. I actually have a Google Doc, with like 7. I never told him this, but like 7 bullet points on how to give a Rabbi Wahlberg sermon.
Well, listen, hit the share screen button and let's get going.
No, I still have another year on my contract. I don't want to. All right. So,
you know what I've been doing? I just go back 7 years and take his sermon from that week's Parsha and I deliver it, change a couple of names and make it like it's mine.
Oh, because I've been doing that with your sermons. No, just joking.
You know what? I just forgot that people are listening in on this.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get back to a little bit of Torah. So so it's exciting. It's exciting time. I seem to always say that's exciting time, but there's always things to look forward to in life. So I just sent out a notice to like the preschool asking them if I can help them listen to the shofar. And many teachers reached out. I'm excited about that. So we're going to do it creatively outside, distanced. But that's something one of my favorite things about working at BT is working with the young kids. It's beautiful. And just to see their faces, and they're obsessed with the shofar. They're obsessed with it. You can do no wrong if you have a shofar. You blow the shofar. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about Rosh Hashanah. It's literally around the corner. We're feeling it. All of our Divrei Torah and Shul are connected to it. The momentum's like building, and like just the thought on Rosh Hashanah, I was thinking about, the word Shana symbolizes the idea that every year another year returns. Shana means lishnot, to return, but it can also mean lishanot. It's just a little change of the verbs lishnot and lishanot, and it has a completely different meaning. Lishnot means to repeat. Lishanot means to change. And so that's really what I'm focusing on now. I think all of us should be focusing on that. This is a very opportune time to change things, to insert the energy for the upcoming year through our work, through our intention, and through our prayer. So that's something to really think about. This next year won't be the same. God willing, it won't be the same. These kind of things, I don't know. Who knows what's in store, but hopefully it won't be the same. And God willing, we can always improve our own lot. And that's through lishanot, through changing ourselves and being able to change the whole upcoming year.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. I'm always struck, the question of like the Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah, do you talk about the Parsha, or do you talk about Rosh Hashanah? The rabbis made it pretty easy, because the Parsha is Nitzavim, and Nitzavim is basically Moshe. It's like Moshe's Shabbat Shuvah sermon. It's just filled with inspiration and words of encouragement. And, one year I was like so tempted, and I did this. I didn't even give a sermon. I just read the words of the Parsha in English. I mean, not the whole thing, but parts of it. It's so beautiful. And
I haven't even picked up on that trick yet.
It's so beautiful. And when you read it, Rabbi Yoga is talking about, changing and improving. And Moshe tells us in the Parsha this week that it's not as hard to do that as you might think. It's not too far. It's not, you don't have to climb up to the heavens. And he says that it is karov elecha hadavar me'od. It's very close to you. Like turning on a new leaf, becoming a better person is very close. Beficha u'v'yavavcha lasoto. It's in your heart and in your mouth to do. And the Sfat Emet says something so incredibly beautiful. The Sfat Emet says the following. He says that God implants within every Jewish person nikuda gnuza balev, like a spark, a dot, a point that is deep within. And all you have to do is release it from potential to actual. Meaning it's there, it's within you. You're ready to go. That's why he says it's close to you and it's in your heart and in your mouth. Like you just have to open up your mouth in the right way with the right intention and you're ready to go. It's there. You don't have to search out for something that's like far and away. It's right there. It's right within. It's right close to you. So thinking about that, to me, is inspiring and makes me feel like, you know what? We can really do this. Before we go to our guests, what else we can also do is find out what our trivia question of the evening is.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. All right. So our question for today is, we are in Parshat Nitzavim Vayelech. It's a double portion, but they all take place at the same time. So the question is, when did this Parsha take place? 5 weeks. This is A. Type in weeks if this is the answer. 5 weeks before Moshe's passing. A, which should be B. 6 days prior to Moshe's passing. Write days. And if you think it's on the day of Moshe's passing, put day. So if you think it's 5 weeks, put weeks. Think it's 6 days, put days. Or if you think the Parsha takes place on the day of Moshe's passing, put in day. And stay tuned for the answer to that.
All right. First of all, Terry Gitlitz, I'm pretty sure that Caleb is disqualified from answering these questions. So you cannot use Caleb. If you finish anywhere in the top like 10 of Chidon Tanakh, then you're not allowed to answer our trivia questions. Number one. Number two, did anyone notice that Rabbi Yogev, I guess he's been tired of people giving the wrong answers. So he just put down A for all the answers. So you can just write A and you'll be right. What else is right is our guest here this evening. So we're thrilled. This is our last in our series of Elul MeZoomins. Next Thursday night will be Erev Rosh Hashanah. So we're not really calling that our Elul MeZoomin, even though it's still an Elul. That's our Erev Rosh Hashanah MeZoomin. And we have a bunch of guests, familiar guests, and some less familiar who are going to be joining us next week. So I encourage you to all join with us. But this evening, we have a very special guest, Dr. Elana Stein Hain. Dr. Elana Stein Hain is a scholar in residence and director of faculty at the Shalom Hartman Institute of North America. She leads the faculty and oversees the content of lay and professional leadership programs. She's a well-regarded teacher and scholar. And what I can say about Dr. Stein Hain is that it's difficult to, at the same time, be traditional and trailblazing, to be at the same time grounded and creative, and to be at the same time scholarly and accessible. And she manages to do all of those. But her real claim to fame here, we found out today, is that she's related to the Copelands, so our high school principal. So now that we know that, all the rest of her biography is not necessary. We're thrilled that she is here to join us this evening. Welcome, Dr. Elana Stein Hain. Oh, wait, we hit it's like in the car when you unlock at the same moment someone.
Yes, totally. Well, thank you, Rabbi Posner, and thank you, Rabbi Yogev. It is so nice to be here. I have a few familiar faces on this screen, some people who I miss from their Manhattan days. We've got Mark and Renee and Daniel Friedman's on here. I see my friend Dan Eckstein is on here, but I don't think he lives in Baltimore, so I'm happy to see him too. And I'm happy to see all these new faces and even the new names of the people who are on the phone, and hopefully we'll become fast friends. I want to talk about a topic that sometimes, there's just, it can be a piece of Torah or it can be a piece of literature, even lahavdil, that just, it speaks to you in a certain moment and it helps you frame what's going on. And for me, there's just a piece of Torah that I want to teach tonight that has really just helped me through this entire time period. And a friend alerted me to it back on Shavuot. It was an Agadah, a story in the Gemara, specifically in the Talmud Yerushalmi, in the Jerusalem Talmud, that I wasn't aware of. And I'm going to learn it with you tonight, but I want to tell you what it's about and why it's done something for me. So I don't know how many of you feel this way, but in my heart, I am a ritual person. And when I say I'm a ritual person, it means that I am grounded by the things that I do over and over again, the places I go over and over again, the people I speak to over and over again, the tefillot that I say over and over again. And something that's been so difficult about COVID is that so much of the ritual, both actual religious ritual and just the rituals of everyday life, have been upended in such a deep way. And that's left me, and I would imagine some other people have had a similar feeling, that's left me with a sense of like real chaos, just sort of being completely out of whack. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when we start to see the kind of loss that people have experienced through COVID, health-wise, economically, emotionally, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've been trying since March, and admittedly, I'm in Manhattan, so we were really feeling it. It was really hitting us very hard in March. I've been trying since March to think about what comes out of this chaos. And I know that a lot of people have sort of pointed to some new rituals that we've developed in COVID that have been, I think, really grounding. MeZooMin is an example of something new that's created that becomes a habit. It becomes a thing that you tune into every week. Or even the way people bump elbows now instead of shaking hands, like that's a new ritual. Or the type of mask that you're wearing, or the goodbye at the end of a Zoom call. That's sort of become, we've developed some new rituals to give ourselves a sense of convention and being able to kind of cope and have some sense of routine. But on the whole, it's really been, you know, a complete like disembowelment, I would say, of our experience. And as I thought about this more and more, what I realized is that what's really unique about this moment is that we've left someplace. We're no longer where we were before March as human beings, as communities, as a society, and yet we haven't reached where we're going to be. Meaning we haven't figured out what is Jewish life going to look like as things get started again, right? I know that I've experienced this with my kids who went to school this week for the first time in 6 months. They went to school this week, and it's a new beginning, and we're trying to figure it out. And I think slowly people are trying to figure things out, and God willing, when there's a vaccine, we'll continue and things will start anew. And in this space of 6 months, which is stretching to longer, what I realize is that we have something called a liminal space. Limin meaning threshold. We're in a threshold space. We're no longer at point A, where we were before the pandemic, but we haven't reached point B. We haven't hit where we're going to be. And for a lot of people, that also causes a sense of ambiguity and not sure where I am and sort of being stuck. But it also is an opportunity, and I really mean this not in an apologetic way, it's an opportunity to think, an opportunity to reflect, an opportunity to actually consider what is being revealed. In the upending of our routines and our assumptions, what have we learned about ourselves that we're going to take with us? What have we learned about the way things need to change in our lives? Maybe this has been too much change, but maybe there's a degree of change that we need. And what's that degree of change? And as we build back Jewish life in a more normal way, what are the things that need to change as we build it back? What have we learned from this? And I don't just mean how we're going to prepare for the next pandemic, God forbid. I mean, what have we learned about the way that people engage in Jewish communal life, absent the normal, regular routine? And maybe some of those new ways that people are engaging should continue to be brought into life. What have we learned about the way that we are interacting with our family members, or the way that we're interacting or checking in on our friends more, that maybe we want to be able to take with us? So I'm trying to think about the relationship between chaos and revelation, and not just to leave us in this place of chaos, but actually to recognize this as a liminal space, a place where we can think about and learn where we want to go and what we've learned and what we, continue to learn as we're in this space. And the piece of Torah that for me really, it's not that it's going to wrap this in a nice bow, but it animates it in a deep way. The piece of Torah that really animates this in a deep way, and I'm going to share it on my screen in a minute, is the story that the Yerushalmi, that the Jerusalem Talmud tells about David HaMelech digging the foundations of the Beit HaMikdash. Now, David HaMelech is not going to build the Beit HaMikdash. We know that. He's a man of war. God tells him he can't. And he knows that his son Shlomo is going to. And yet he wants to do something to engage in laying the groundwork for what that Mikdash is going to look like. And that's where we meet this Gemara. And I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. This should work. Okay, great. Everybody sees my screen? And you know what, Rabbi Posner, could you just give me a sense, by what time do I need to be finished so that I can make sure I don't overdo?
Well, we have another show next Thursday night, so
I have till next Thursday. So really being related to Renee and Mark gives me a lot of leeway here. Got it. I just learned a lot about the community.
That's exactly right.
It's your connection to Renee, not Mark. No, just joking.
Oh, okay. Well, I like Mark too. Okay.
I'm just joking.
No, you definitely have a good 15 minutes.
That's wonderful. Okay. Yeah, maybe some people just breathe a sigh of relief. Let's see. So we're looking at the Jerusalem Talmud, the Talmud Yerushalmi, and I'm going to read it in its Hebrew Aramaic and translate it. V'chein ata motzeh, and so you find, and the so you find, I'll tell you what it connects to in a bit. B'sha'ah sheba David, lachpor timol yosim shel Beit HaMikdash. When King David came to dig the drain pipes of the Beit HaMikdash. Now, the drain pipes are the pipes that lead down from the Mizbeach, from the altar, down deep into the earth, for any of the nisachim, any of the libations, the water or the wine that would be poured, okay? When he came to dig those drain pipes, he dug really far. Chafar chameshesrei mavin da'amin. He dug down 1,500 cubits. He dug down deep. He clearly, when he was digging these foundations, he was digging these drain pipes, he wanted them to go deep into the earth. And the reason he wanted to go deep into the earth, we find out in other places in Chazal and other places in rabbinic writing, that the drain pipes are actually supposed to go to the Tehom. They're supposed to go to the depths of the earth. But the problem is, as he dug, v'lo ashkach tehoma, he couldn't find the depths. Uvesofa, and in the end, all he found, ashkach, he found chad atzitz, he found a pot, a little piece of pottery, uba mirmite, and he wanted to lift it up. Let's just talk about, just from like an image perspective, what this has set up. It's set up an image of a person who wants to build something amazing in Jewish life. He wants to build the Beit HaMikdash. But in order to do it, he has to go deep and he has to uncover, he has to dig under the earth. It's not superficial, it's actually going to dig. And what we're going to find out is, as you're digging down deep, there's a lot of danger there as to what you might uncover and what you might actually upend. What he finds is he finds essentially a piece of trash. He finds a piece of pottery, a shard of pottery, the cheapest thing in ancient life, okay? He finds the shard of pottery and he wants to pick it up. And then he finds out that the pottery, in classic Beauty and the Beast style, can talk. Amar le, the pottery says to him, Leit at yachel, you can't pick me up. Don't move me. Amar le lama, says, why not? Amar le dena hacha, I'm here, kavish al tahoma. I'm here covering the abyss. And I need to be covering the abyss. You don't want to leave, you look at me as garbage. I'm not garbage. I'm actually what's standing between you and the abyss exploding on you. Amar le, and he responds, Min emat atacha. Since when have you been here? Amar le, and the piece of pottery responds, Min shata de ashma rachmana kale b'Sinai. From the time that God revealed God's voice at Sinai, saying, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. Re'adat ara, at that time, the land shook, ushkiat, and it fell in. Ve'ana yaev hacha, and I was put here, kavish al tahoma, to repress, to keep the abyss from overflowing. I want to stop here again. What we have, as David HaMelech is digging and searching and trying to uncover, he finds out that there's yesh gvul, there's a limit, and he shouldn't go past that limit. And this piece of pottery says to him, don't you understand? The line between chaos and revelation is this thin, and I'm it. And I'll tell you what I think that means in a metaphorical way. The line between learning something new and deep and making change and having things be different, there's a fine line between that and actually creating chaos for the entire system. There's a fine, fine line. And sometimes the thing that's holding it together is something we wouldn't even realize is the little thing that's holding it together. Now, David HaMelech should have listened, but he didn't listen. Instead, Afal Gavkain, anyway, Lo Shamalei, he didn't listen to the piece of pottery, because why am I listening to a little piece of pottery? I'm probably even imagining that I'm hearing anything. And also because he was on a mission. I know, I'm going to dig. I'm going to get to the Tehom. I'm going to get to the abyss. And somebody tells you, no, you shouldn't go there. This is dangerous. This is bad. He says, no, I'm going to go there. He's on a mission. And he doesn't listen. And so he picks it up. Cave under Rene, once he picked it up, Sulik Tahoma, the entire abyss came up. And what we mean is water, Uba Mitzvah Alma. And it was threatening to literally flood the world. Vahava Achitofel Kaim Taman. And Achitofel, who was his advisor, who in the Navi's narrative of Achitofel and David, he's the advisor who actually eventually turns on David and takes part in David's son Avshalom's rebellion against him. And later Achitofel hangs himself because he's not successful with Avshalom either. But here we're going to learn what happens with Achitofel, who's there and watching this whole thing unfold. Vahava Achitofel kaim taman, and Achitofel was standing there. Amar, he said, ha, perfect opportunity. Kedain David mitchanek va'ana malach. Now King David is going to die. He's going to literally be choked by the abyss. And of course, it's a reference because later Achitofel chokes himself. But David is going to be choked, and I'm going to get to be king. Instead of seeing the moment for what it was, what Achitofel saw was opportunism. He saw his opportunity to win, to triumph. Instead of thinking, how can we be all hands on deck? He said, how can I gain something from this moment? But King David is on to him. Amar David, King David said, man de chacham, if somebody is wise, de yada mekimte, and knows how to put this piece of pottery back, if there's somebody who knows how to put this back together, v'lo mekin lay, and they don't, that person, yasofe mitchanek, that person should be the one who dies. How dare you look at this as a moment of opportunity? If somebody knows how to help and they don't help, that person is deserving of death. In the end, Amar Mada Amar, Achitofel said something, va'okme, and put the pottery shard back, or really it's a whole piece of pottery, put it back in its place, which stopped the explosion of the chaos. Hitchil David Omer Shira, and at that moment, in gratitude, David HaMelech began singing psalms of Tehillim, and the psalms of Tehillim, starting with Tehillim Kuf Kaf 120, all start with Shir HaMa'alot, a song of ascents. So he started saying Shir HaMa'alot, a song of ascents, Shir Lemea Olot, a song for every 100 cubits that the water came up. Al Kol Mea Ama, for every 100 cubits, Haya Omer Shira, he said one of these Shir HaMa'alot, and of course there are 15 Shir HaMa'alot in a row, starting from Tehillim 120. And so he thanked God for every one of those 100 amot that the water had come up and now it had receded. And by the way, Avagav Cain, even so, Havasofa Mitchanka, the end of Achitofel is that he himself ended up being mitchanek. He himself ended up choking to death, even though he saved them. Now, why does this piece of Torah hit me in this moment, and why am I bringing it to you? When I look at this piece of Torah, I see exactly what many of us have felt for the last little while. Like there are waters flooding us everywhere in so many different ways. You hear about the fires in California. Everyone says, yeah, of course it's 2020. Of course there are fires in California, right? You hear about a squirrel that has the bubonic plague. This is a real thing. Of course there's a squirrel that has a bubonic plague. It's 2020, right? We hear about these things and we feel that there is water flooding us, starting with Corona and continuing in many other places. And at the moment when we feel that water flooding, it's very hard to think about what it is that we've uncovered, because it's a flood. And all we want it to go down. We want it to tamp down. We want to fix it. We want to get rid of it. That's what we want to do. But if we can focus for a moment on that place where David was before he lifted that shard of pottery, when he got down deep and he looked and he thought, how do I dig the foundations of Jewish life? I have to go down deep. I can't go too far. There's such a thing as too far. But in order to actually have a structure and an institution that breathes and lives and is sustainable, it has to have deep roots, and it has to actually try to tunnel underneath the superficial and really get at something that roots it. And in that moment, when David was standing there, before he got to the abyss, before it went too far, that is a moment that we have been in. That is a moment that we have been in and squandered. And my question is, can we seize on that part of the narrative? Not just the flooding, and we want to get rid of the flooding, but what have we learned in the digging? What have we learned in being home with kids for 6 months? What have we learned in trying to figure out how we use free time for 6 months? What have we learned about our priorities and our values, whether it's work, friends, family, self, in these last 6 months, that we actually think is not just something that we leave behind at the end of this pandemic, but it's actually something that we take with us. Another reason I love this Agadah is because of Achitophel's role. You know, Jewish life is predicated on such a balance that involves resources, it involves personnel, it involves competition, whether we like it or not. And in this moment of waters overflowing, where some of us have the resources to be able to deal with that overflow, and others of us don't have the resources to deal with that overflow, where some of our institutions have the ability to deal with that and can even get ahead of other institutions that are going to struggle. Who do we want to be in that moment? And I think from this story, it's clear we don't want to be Achitophel. We don't want to be the people who say, well, you know what, this gives me an opportunity and I'm going to take that opportunity and not think about how it's impacting someone else. And I'm sure there are myriad other ways that people can see this Agadah and see it playing out in their own lives and in their own world. But I see it also for a third reason. There's something here that's not just for pandemic life. It's for life, which is David was so single-minded. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to dig. He wanted to get somewhere. And then he came upon someone, something that knew better than he did. Why did that shard of pottery know better than he did? Because it had been there. Because it knew what the environment was like, what the terrain was like. And instead of listening to it, instead of gaining wisdom from it, David threw it aside. He considered it the piece of garbage that it looked like. And I am wondering if in this pandemic, we have at all become alerted to the people who we often push aside, to the people who we often take for granted, who we think we know better. And have we learned anything from that experience of being able to find out, I'll say personally, what I've learned listening to my children's teachers and listening to the way that they teach my children, and how I can learn from them, where I'm the parent and think I know it all, right? How much I've learned from them. There's something here about the humility of this moment, the humility of the flooding, to ask ourselves, what didn't we listen to? Who didn't we listen to? And how can we correct that, not just about the pandemic, but even in our rebuilding of Jewish life, whose voices count and whose voices matter. So I want to leave you with, first of all, just that Gemara on its own for people to think about. And I actually would love for Rabbi Posner, Rabbi Yogif to send out the sheet, because I also put the Babylonian Talmud version on it, which is very different. So just for food for thought, for conversation. And I want to leave you with these 3 notions, right? One, the idea that actually it is important to dig. It is important to change. It isn't just that we build on the old. It's that we actually sometimes have to upend some of it. But there's a gvul, but there's a limit. To the question of who we want to be when we're in the midst of this pandemic in terms of taking care of ourselves as well as or versus taking care of others. And the third, the question of who don't we listen to? Who do we take for granted? Who do we ignore? And how has that changed for us in the midst of this pandemic? So now I'll turn it over to the rabbis of Beth Tefillah.
Thank you so much. Like a big yasher koach. I promised big, so I'm glad that you made me look like I knew what I was talking
Delivered.
Thanks.
about. Whenever I hear you teach a piece of Gemara, I say to myself, that's how I should teach Gemara, but it's not so simple. A big yasher koach. Thank you so much. That last piece really hit strong for me. It's something I noticed also. Like, you saw it really with, I'm a big sports fan, and I suppose I probably will still continue to be a sports fan, but I've been so turned off, really, to professional sports during this time. And one of the reasons for it is because you saw right away who was important, who was essential. Like, you know what? Sports shut down for a while, and everyone was just fine. You have to understand, saying things like this in Baltimore, where you have the Ravens, is like a big deal, right? Everyone was just fine. You know what? We really were. And, then these guys are making, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And who did we need? We needed our doctors and our nurses and our first responders, and we needed our police, and we needed our teachers. A teacher making 1% or less than that than what this person's making to play sports, but they have to, jump in. We need them. We need our schools. A real shifting of values like that. Really just hit me, really, really deeply. And I think looking at that, who do we value and what do we value? Who are we ignoring or not paying enough attention to? I think is really, really, really powerful. So thank you. I wonder, when you talk about digging deep for change and all, I wonder if you have any advice for people for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur coming up, realizing that for many it's going to be a very, very different, Yamim Noraim, a different high holiday experience. And how can they maximize on that, and, get something from that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have?
So it's interesting. I think all of us on this call probably have some things that we've been thinking about in terms of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and it's very overwhelming. I honestly think one of the things that happens in our ritual lives is that because we daven together, we don't always talk about the things we're davening about. We don't talk about it. We daven, and then we go to Kiddush and we talk about it and we figure out what's going on with your grandkid, right? That kind of thing. And I actually wonder if this year there's an opportunity, we'll be davening at home, or we'll be davening in pods, or we'll be davening a much shorter davening. But I'm wondering, what conversations do people want to have in their homes that relate to what it is we're davening about, that relate to tshuva, that relate to relationship with God, that relate to the way we treat each other, that relate to change, that relate to reflection, that relate to Torah. I think there's an opportunity. There's so much time at home, so much more time at home, and you can ritualize it. Meaning, I know people sometimes are self-conscious or they're awkward about bringing up a Torah issue or bringing up a real issue. You can ritualize it. The same way you would have a shiur in the afternoon, you pick a time, you get together with your friends in the backyard, and you talk about something real, right? There's an opportunity to bring that conversation, that sincerity of conversation back to this. And that's what I'm going to try to be focused on this year.
Thank you. Yeah, very
Yeah.
powerful. I like that idea of ritualizing it. That takes away that sort of like perhaps awkward moment. Rabbi Yogev?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I always enjoy hearing Dr. Hain. I heard you for the first time through the LaFell Fellowship. And I like your combination. I always enjoyed your combination of depth, charisma, and clarity. Those pieces I've always found makes it really easy to learn your Torah and enjoyable. So thank
You
you for
guys want
sharing.
to talk to my kids and just like say that stuff to them? Because it would help me out with my 9-year-old, like big. That's very kind.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the message is extremely powerful.
Go bring him into the room. Get him on here.
I'm proud to say that he's asleep. I'm very proud of that. But that's thanks to my hubby. So
Yeah. So I was thinking about that midrash. It's an interesting. It's like I've never really delved into that midrash. Maybe I heard along. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. It's an awesome midrash. I was thinking about like a little different direction as you were sharing. It kind of reminded me like of our shul in a way, because we had all these plans. We had the holiday. We have all these plans, the high holidays. We bring thousands of people into our building, and now you go into the auditorium and there's 100 seats spaced out for 100 people. We have all these plans, and King David had all these plans there to build foundations in Judaism. Like he just wanted to do a good thing. He wanted to build the foundations of the temple, and Hashem didn't allow him. Hashem didn't. He couldn't go. He could only go a certain place, and they had to stop. And it's reminding me of our time period, and then it kind of got thrown back in his face. And you ask yourself, what do we do with all this? What are we supposed to make out of all this? And I think the story there, when he starts slowly, fixing the situation, and through each 100 cubits or so, or however much, he was saying another shirah. He developed all new types of shirah and song from that experience. And I think it's very connected to how what you're saying was like you find different places where you're growing in this time period, and the idea is kind of think about how to continue with them forward. But I think there's so many of them. There's 15 there in that story. So I'm sure a lot of us found a lot of.
What's beautiful is if you look in those chapters of Tehillim, they're very humble. They're chapters that are like, I look to God. I don't know where my salvation is going to come from. He's internalizing humility.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about it is what caused all of that uproar? A little shard. We have an invisible disease that we can't even see really. And it can shake everything up. So it's like, it just reminded me kind of our situation, but and the bracha that can come, God willing, that we can try to take out of it, and the growth that we're finding ourselves experiencing from everything that's going on. Doesn't make it better. It was an abyss, but
I got to thank Alan Sandler. We got carried away here. We're excited about the Talmud. We're excited and we think everyone is with us on this journey. And I don't know if everyone saw what Alan chatted, but he said, "Can you see the turtle behind Rabbi Yogev?" Thank you, Alan, for keeping it real. We appreciate it. Well, listen.
Good girl, Bella.
Sometimes the best example of all of this is a turtle, right? Absolutely.
I know you can spin this. Come on.
Oh, come on.
Give the Dvar Torah. Come on, Rabbi.
Oh, hold on. Dr. Stein, what do you say? Turtles and Torah.
First of all, if there's anybody more methodical than a turtle, I don't know who they are. Meaning patience. We need the patience of a turtle. We do. I'm sorry, we do.
It just started like moving around really quickly when you were saying that.
And you know
there
what
you
else?
go. It knows we're talking about it.
Alan, you know what else? Sometimes when you're a rabbi and you're preaching for people to grow and to change over and over and over and over again, and it looks like they're not moving. They're moving. They're just moving very, very slowly. This has been absolutely fantastic. Dr. Stein, thank you so much for joining us. Before we sign off, a reminder that we have our after party room where you can come and hang out with us for a few more minutes, and people have an opportunity to ask questions and to chat. Everyone is invited to stay on and to join us for that. Number 2, folks, Motzei Shabbat, this Saturday night, Slichot. You absolutely must join. If you don't usually come to Slichot, this year, I can't promise it's going to happen again next year. This year, you can get Slichot from your living room, exactly where you are. The same link that you came on to MeZooMin for tonight, Chazan Olbrecht, it's a musical Slichot. There's going to be a keyboard there and a flute there, and Chazan Olbrecht is going to be leading us in Slichot. The Zoom doors open at 10:10. At 10:20, I'll be sharing some words of introduction to Slichot. And at 10:30 sharp, Slichot will begin. It's about 45 minutes. Slichot are beautiful, beautiful words of imploring and pleading and connecting with God. And Chazan Olbrecht is going to be singing it. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. You can also join us in person, but you need to sign up. It'll be in the main sanctuary. Masks.
And we're going to be sending out the Slichot, so you'll have it at home. We'll send out a PDF.
Yes, please keep your eyes on your Touchpoints email tomorrow so that you will be able to click on the Slichot, so you will have it with you. So please, I really encourage you to join us. Like Dr. Stein Hain said, I mean, these are opportunities, right? So if you haven't done it before, this is an incredible opportunity to join us for that. So please do that. It's coming.
So let me just offer the answer to the trivia question before we head off.
Yeah, I didn't forget. I got it. It's number 3. I always forget, but I didn't actually forget this time. Actually, the fact that it's number 3 and I'm up to number 2 doesn't mean that I won't forget it, but hopefully we won't forget it. Number 2 is I want to make sure everyone knows that last night, you received an email with a whole bunch of logistics about high holidays, in person and virtual, with all the information. Those who had ordered machzorim, they're already in, and many of them have picked them up already. I hope you saw in your mail today or yesterday our high holiday bulletin with a bunch of information. A lot of work went into all of this. Thank you to the K's who already emailed us and thanked us for the work that went into that. So we are getting going. I know it's hard. I know it's confusing. I know it's different. Things are different this year, but really encourage everyone to pay attention, to read your emails, to be connected in so you can see what's going on. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, Rabbi Yogev.
The suspense. So the answer is, as most of you, the few of you that guessed, the answer is, it was Moses' last day. He got a lot done in that day. Think about it. The last 4 parshiot, there's so much. A song, historical song, brachas, blessings for everybody, warnings, a new covenant. I think it's a nice message, kind of try to maximize. There's a hashtag YOLO. You only live once. Well, you only live your last day once. Every day, live like your last day. Try to maximize and find the good in every single day.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great chat.
Thank you, Dr.
For being with us. And we'll stop the recording now. And those who want to stay on and join us in the after party, hang out with 2 of your favorite rabbis. And you don't have to pretend like the other one's your favorite one because he's not here. So everything's on the table.
Is the recording off?
Darn it, the recording's not off. I thought the recording was off. Feel free to unmute, to raise your hands, to ask questions. I really do hope that people saw the information. I know that there's a lot going on. I want to mention this. I think this is important. I hope that, well, I thought it was obvious, but it's not so obvious. When we announced that the Hurwitz service is going to be a full service in 2 hours, it is going to be a full service, but it's going to be the minimal, right? And things are going to move along very quickly. And when we announce the main sanctuary service is going to be 1 hour 15 highlights, that means like 1 hour and 15 minutes. There's not a lot that can go on 1 hour and 15. There's no Torah reading. There's no shacharit.
And a sermon.
There's a sermon in there. Some people wanted to know what time Yizkor was going to be. Yizkor is going to be within the 1 hour and 15 minutes of the entirety of the service. So I am not going to tell you if it's going to be at 15 minutes in. Like, you got to come for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I'm joking, but the truth is, for people coming in and going out or remaining socially distanced, you got to get there on time, early, get to your seat, sit down, and stay for the service. Yisker itself usually takes about an hour 15. So you're good. And it's Yom Kippur, don't forget. So I think it'll be okay.
Mhm.
All right, folks, questions,
Yes.
comments.
Some people asked about Ne'ilah. Like if it's going to be outside or inside. So
Ela, so by the way, the Yom Kippur information will go out about next week or so. We figure we were considering. I was for us sending it out after Yom Kippur, but some people felt that they had to actually get the information before Yom Kippur. I don't know why they have to be such sticklers for that. I mean, okay, but we waited on our Yom Kippur information because we were waiting to see what the numbers for Rosh Hashanah look like, which helped indicate to us what we need to do for Yom Kippur. And we have the times and all, but we didn't want to confuse people too much in sending out the logistics for Rosh Hashanah. So hear about it next week. It's mostly the same setup as Rosh Hashanah. Basically, there are going to be two services, one that's going to go really straight, really quick, go through everything. Sanctuary service will be highlights. We'll include Yisker in there. Folks, Kol Nidre this year is something special. Kol Nidre this year is something really, really special. First of all, it's going to be live streamed, and it's not going to be like Zoom. It's going to be live streamed like professionally. It's going to be pretty cool with multiple cameras and all. It's going to be starting obviously early enough that we can live stream it until Yom Kippur. We have a special guest. I don't know if I'm allowed to share this information, but I'm sharing it. Amit Peled is a member of ours. He's a parent in the school, and he is a world-renowned cellist. And he's going to be, Kol Nidre is going to start. I mean, before Kol Nidre starts, he has a piece that he does that's Kol Nidre on the cello, which is going to be something incredible. And that'll be followed up by Rabbi Wahlberg's Kol Nidre sermon, which he'll be giving also early so people can live stream in. And then Chazan Olbracht will be going Kol Nidre. That's all going to happen in the main sanctuary. It's going to start at 5:45, so it starts a bit before Yom Kippur. It's a tight schedule. We didn't want to start it, too early before Yom Kippur, but we wanted to get it as close as we could when we can still shut off before Yom Kippur. In the Hurwitz, there will be a regular Kol Nidre service like we normally would have that'll start like a few minutes before Yom Kippur starts and go through the whole thing. In terms of Ne'ilah, so that we just have to see what the numbers look like. If the numbers fit our ability to do one service in the main sanctuary, that's what we're going to do. If the numbers are too big and we can't do that, then we'll have a service in the main sanctuary and a service in the Hurwitz. So we'll see what those numbers look like. We think we'll probably be able to have one service in the main sanctuary. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the Ne'ilah that we've all come to know and love. There won't be as much singing. There won't be the clergy, standing right next to each other. But we have done some filming of some things like that you'll be getting in your pre-Yom Kippur video, and we think that you'll enjoy that. Reminder, next Thursday, you'll be getting an email. All those who signed up for the High Holiday Experience, virtually or in person. If you didn't sign up, please sign up, because there's a lot of great stuff that's going on. We started our Merkaz classes through this past Wednesday. There's a lot of opportunities that are going on. And for those who signed up, they'll be getting our High Holiday Highlights video on Thursday, which is about a half hour or so of the Chazan doing different songs from the davening with introductions from the rabbis. You'll also be getting full sermons from myself and Rabbi Wahlberg, the sermons that we would normally give, in shul. So that's also videoed. It's all very professionally done. It's all really, really great. And we hope that this is going to help you experience Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur at home. The bulletin that you hopefully got today has in it a guide to davening that Rabbi Wecker has prepared. So it goes through all of the davening. It has commentary on the Machzor from Rabbi Yogev, from myself, and from Rabbi Wahlberg. It has recipes for cooking for Rosh Hashanah. And there's still a lot more to come of resources and things like that. So
also, maybe also worth mentioning those who want to hear the shofar. It's in the email, but there's a lot of information that goes out. Just mention it again. We're going to have an outdoor shofar blowing, 2 of them on Sunday. So if you don't want to come in the building, but you still want to hear shofar, you can hear from far away. You can be socially distant, and we're going to have that option available at 10 o'clock and at 6:30 on Sunday. So you can come by, hear the shofar. It's a very important mitzvah. So we're going to be offering that as well to anybody who wants to come.
Yeah, and for those who will be, thank you everyone for reminding me about that. And as well as there'll be a family shofar service. It's going to happen at 11 o'clock on Sunday. Pretty neat. People have been asking what we're doing for shofar, in the services. So in the Hurwitz, we're going to blow the shofar out the door, because there's a door right there on the side and you can hear it. And in the main, we just practiced in there today. Rabbi Wahlberg is going to be blowing the shofar.
Should have gotten footage of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I should have taken it into backstage. So the shofar is going like backstage, but we went you can hear it from in the sanctuary. So we've been working. After Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is over, we probably won't. We're taking a vacation. We probably won't see you till next Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But we wish you all a great year. Should be a good one. No, we're thrilled to have you. What's really nice? I don't know if other people notice this, but I think every week there are more people who put their videos on during this, so we can see you. And I think that people are actually also learning that when you put your video on, we can see you. That's also very helpful. It took people a while to figure that out, but we're happy that you've figured that out already.
It's really good seeing everybody. It's good seeing everybody. Really, really nice.
Awesome.
Thanks for showing
up. All right,
up.
everyone. Well, listen, all the best. Please join us for Slichot, either on Zoom, or if you're coming in person, then sign up and join us. All the best. Take care. A good evening, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Yogev, Alan is calling the turtles on the phone, so just in case they...